Chapter 9. Baby Kambley, the prison we broke. In those days, at least one woman in 100 would have her nose chopped off. You may well ask why. It is because the Sasu, who would poison her son's mind. These Sasu ruined the lives of innocent women forever. Every day, the Maharwada would resound with the cries of helpless women in some house or other. Husbands flogging their wives as if they were beasts would do so until the stick broken with the efforts. The heads of the women would break open, their backbones would be crushed, and some would collapse unconscious. But was nobody to care for them. They had no food to eat, no proper clothing to cover their bodies. Their hair would remain uncombed and tangled, dry from the lack of oil. Women led the most miserable existence. The entire day, the poor daughter in law would sever the entire household like a slave. The Sasu, Sasara brothers and sister in law and the neighbors she had to serve one and all. The household chores were no less torture. Many daughter in laws would try to run away to escape this torture. Once night fell, darkness would descend everywhere, at home, in a village, or on the roads. When everybody was fast asleep, the harassed daughter in law would pick up a couple of rags and run away under the cover of darkness. It was not at all an easy thing to do. There were no vehicle in those days to take her quickly to her mother's home. The young girls had to be entirely on her own. She had to be extremely careful and watch each step she took. She had to find her way in pitch darkness, through hills and valleys and thick forests. She had to cross streams and rivers. Her escape would take place in mortal fear, lest people who knew her in-laws were watching her. It would take her at least 2 days to reach her mother's home. Immediately on her heels would follow her brother-in-laws or Sasra or her husband. Nobody, neither in her in-laws nor any of the others, had any sympathy for the poor tortured girl. The husband or in-laws would beat her to the pulp. Even her brother and fathers would flog her mercilessly and ask the in-laws to take her back. The poor girl, numb with pain and hunger, was forced to return to her husband's home. Once she was brought back to her in-laws' house, as an even worse fate waited her. Her in-laws would take a huge square piece of wood, weighing around 5 kilos, to the carpenter to have stock made for her. The carpenter would drill a hole in the wood big enough for her foot to go through. After this, they would put an iron bar through the side so as to make it impossible for her to pull her foot out. The wood stuff would be huge and heavy as large iron tub. She was forced to work with this device around her leg. Her legs would wounded and blood would ooze out every time she tried to move her leg. She was not a human being for in-laws, but just another piece of wood. Her hair would be all tangled and spread around her head in complete disarray. She would be made to wear her younger brother-in-law's copper anklets as bangles. These copper anklets would be a sign that she was a Mahar. Besides, she had to constantly listen to the abuse of her Sasu and Sasara, whose tongue would never tire of lashing out at her. The Sasu would pinch her cheeks black and blue. Her Sasara would thrash her day and night. The poor girl would endure this torture for as long as she could. When it becomes unbearable, she would run away with a stock around her bloodied foot. When such girls managed to reach the Maharwada, people crowd around to see them. We kids found the entire scene extremely curious. The Sasu would pour poison in her son's ear against his helpless wife. She would whisper into his ears, "Dondya, what good is such a runaway wife to you? Some bastard must have made her leave you." She must be having an affair. You are her husband, but obviously the bitch preferred someone else. I suspect that this somebody is in front of our own community. This bitch will bring nothing but disgrace to us. No, no, I don't want such a slut in my house. Wants to ruin your life. Don't let her off so easily. Dhondya, cut off the tip of her nose. Only then will my mother's heart breathe easy. Don't bring shame on your father's name. And don't you worry. I will get you as many wives as you want. I will get you remarried in just a couple of days. I've already chosen a girl for you. She has a son from her previous marriage, but do not keep his wife of yours. She is not at all good for you. Otherwise, you will suffer like that woman would brought a farm at an inconspicuous corner so that she would kill her land in peace. But on the way, she met a Mussalman and he chopped off the nose and breast too. We don't want such a string of problem in our house. This speech was followed by drama of shedding false tears, which Sasu pretended to wipe off with her sari. She would then hide her face in it, and after suitable pause, she would continue. What would this slut have done if she had to suffer like this? Probably she would have committed suicide. God, we don't even dare to speak to the dog and hen in our in law's house disrespectfully. Even when we had to shoo them away, we had to address them with respect. We did not get food to eat 4 or 5 days at a stretch. We had to stealthily pluck some leafy vegetable from the field, cook them and gobbled them down without any salt. Even these would be difficult to get. We had to suffer so much. Oh, how we suffered, just like Sita suffered during her exile. Torrential tears would follow this outburst. Then the Sasra would take over. He would urge his son to be brave hero. You are a man. You must behave like one. You must be proud and firm. You must walk tall. 12 young mustaches and shown us that you are a man. You are wearing bangles like a woman. Then, do you know about that Ajja of yours? He was a distant relative, of course. Let me tell you, he was a real hero among men. He could fell down any wild beast, however ferocious, at one stroke. He used to carry an axe with him at all times. Once his wife smiled at him, its cousin finished. He lured her with sweet words, took her to the field and just axed her down, cut her into pieces then and there. The entire Maharwara trembled on hearing his name. Such is your lineage. Remember, never mind if you have to go to prison for 6 months. You must chop off your wife's nose and present it to her brother and father. They must not have any respect left to sit with members of the punch. This speech would go to the son's head. His ego would inflate like a balloon. Then both father and son would make a plan for chopping off the girl's nose. The Sasra would go to her mother's place and then, sweet words, bring her back. Meanwhile, the son would keep ready a razor sharpened to an edge. At night, he would sit on her chest and, taking his own time, cut off her nose. Then they would drive the poor girl out of the house with blood pouring from her mutilation. None of the relatives would give her shelter. She would call muddy and was refused entry in so-called good homes. Then the Sasu would happily arrange a second marriage for her son with some divorced woman with a couple of children. She would feel elated that the harassment she had suffered was being finally compensated for her. An innocent girl would thus be sacrificed to atone for a Sasu's suffering. Such human practice were quite rampant almost till 1940s. The poor girl were ill-starred, as it were. Mahar women were supposed to draw their palla forward from a forehead down to the nose. Now, if innocent child bride was found to have neglected this, and if anybody saw her pallav down back even a little, it was provocation enough for all the sasu around to pounce upon her. Immediately they would taunt her. Hey, from where have you obtained such a daughter in law? Her mother must be slut. Why, her pallav just doesn't stay on her forehead. Whenever we look at her, it is always up on her head. Then the sasu would add fuel to this fire. Now see for yourself, otherwise, you will blame me for not being able to stand her. What should I tell you? My friend, you asked me about her mother, right? What shall I tell you? Such a slut she is. Good God knows what she does. And this one here is her child, isn't she? What else can you expect then? Like mother, like daughter. A slut daughter will be slut. A good woman's daughter will be good. Fix her pallav on her head with a nail. This is the only way to make it stay there. The bitch, her mother, deceives us. She has tied a kalvatin around our neck. Tell me, Atyabai, what will happen to my son? What will be he will be survived with this woman? He is simple minded as Lord Shiva. Again, tearful talk would follow. Kaki, it's all right till we are alive. But what will happen after us? This bitch will twist him around her little finger. Then the sasu would begin to wail loudly. Her companions would gladly join her wailing. Such was the life of our poor helpless daughter in laws. The life of the woman in the lower caste was thus shaped by the fire of the calamities. This made their bodies strong, but their mind cried out just against this oppression. A woman is sattva and she incarnate. She can put even her creator to shame. Just as the Chaturvarna system created caste and sanctioned discriminatory practice, the cunning creators of the world established the practice of making women dependent on man. Men have therefore dominated women ever since. But a woman is goddess Amba on the earth who given birth to man and sustained that unjust creature with her very lifeblood. After having undergone the ordeal of the fire for ages, she finally gave birth to a divine flame. This flame showed the world what true love and affection is. Then it tore off the net in which man had trapped women for ages and rescued them. This was what is known as Hindu Code Bill. The man who gave birth to Hindu Code Bill was my kind of Bhima, the son of morality, savior of the world. Is it because of him that my pen can scribble out some thought? It is because of him that I have understood truth, that I can now see how morality is being trampled upon. It is because of him that I got the inspiration to join the struggle against oppression and contribute my small mite to it. In a sense, I am grateful to Virgaon and the people there would be nurtured me with their love. In fact, Virgaon had a lion's share in helping me perceive truth. I will never forget the love they bestowed upon me since my birth. I could enter any house that I wanted to. I was completely engulfed in the relationship I had formed with the man, women, and children in each house. I would move among them, calling them Mama and Mami. The woman of the house would bring our plates full of dried piece of meat from a storage jar. There would be a maggot in some of the bones. She would brush them off in the hot sun. Once the meat pieces were cleaned enough, she would put them to cook a big earthen pot. She would roast them onion over the chula along with some chilies and haldis. Roast some dhania seed on piece of burning coal and bring them all to the powder on the grinding stone. Then she would put a piece of coal in this mixture of the spice to make it green. Once the meat pieces were cooked, she would add the spice to it with some jowar flour to thicken the dish. Then other women would make big jowar bhakri. The sasu would first serve the food to the men folk and the children. Each of them would get a big plateful of the meat dish, along with some six bakaris and some raw onion. Children usually shared the plates with the man. Bakari would be mixed with the meat, and children would eat with, with lusty appetite. All of us children would look for delicacies like liver. Everybody would invite me to have a share from their plate. The taste of the food is still fresh on my tongue. Even goat's dish, that so called posh hotel, fade in comparison to the food we had. In those days, there was no distinction between breakfast and lunch. Breakfast itself would be like lunch. Nobody knew about tea. It was made only in my Ajji's house. My Ajja was a butler and hence he was used to having tea, so we too got into habit of drinking tea. Just the two of us, Ajja and I, lived in the house of Veergaon. Ajji used to prepare tea in the morning. We would eat the stale bakri left over from last night's meal with the tea. Then Ajja would go to collect firewood with the other woman, and I would roam all over the place, visiting my house I wanted to. I would sit down to eat with anybody who had finished cooking. Dry meat piece would be available only with the mahar of the 16th share. The other house did not have anything to eat. Those people were like insects crawling around in hunger, with no food to eat. At least a couple of people would be ill in such house, lying down in rags. They would be almost lifeless with hunger, since even ordinary food was scarce. In their desperate search for solution, they clung to believe that sick man would become well with simple remedies. Then they would come to my Ajji's house and say, Sita, everybody in my house is sick. They are all down. So I thought your tea would help them. Tea is the real remedy. People get well immediately. Once Malhari also gave me a bowl of tea and my sickness just disappeared. So I thought maybe I should give all my people bowl of tea. My Ajji would advise, Attabai, get sugar worth 3/4 of the paisa. Get tea powder worth a damdi. Then boil a jar of water in a pan. Put sugar and tea powder in and bring it to boil. Your entire household will be able to drink tea. Oh, but there is no pan in my house. All right, then heat the water in a tawa, and once it started boiling, remove it from the fire and strain it. Your tea will be ready. The woman would follow Ajji's advice and give everybody some to drink tea. They would fall better and after drinking the tea. They believed that tea was a good medicine. In those days, the tawas were not flat like the modern ones. They would be deep like a flattish bowl. The whole family would drink tea in one paisa. They could not afford to drink tea because they could not afford even that one paisa. They breathed, therefore they were supposed to be alive. Each generation left their children to serve their operation and inquiry and quietly got wiped off from the face of the earth. Poor people had a lifespan of hardly 30 to 40 years. One generation perished, but the next generation would be ready to serve Mother Earth and monster ruling over it. On the one side, there was an entire society, arrogant and insolent, enjoying wealth and comfort, and on the other side, there were people dying without food, like fish out of water. But character, truth, and morality among the oppressed did not die. The three qualities merged and there were realized in the form of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. He was our Bali Raja who gave away his kingdom for the truth. He was like Ravan who squandered away his kingdom for character. He was our Buddha who taught love, brotherhood, and equality unto all. He was our Bhim, our king and our savior, who bless and build with sight. He was the weapon forged out of the perfect blend of the three qualities of character, truth, and morality to fight injustice and to break the chains of slavery that shackled out feet. The Prison We Broke, Baby Kambley, Chapter 10. Finally, I lost the shelter of my Ajji's love. One day, my Ajji brought me to Palton and handed me over to my parents. Then she went off to Mumbai and stayed with my Atya. I must have been 8 or 9 years old then. Our house in Paltan, Maharwada was just a courtyard away from the chowdi. It was a small hut with no more than 10 square feet of the floor space. For walls, it had stone piled in row. My father was an established contractor. He was the one who had demolished the hill of Maharwadis in Mumbai to construct new building. He had built the bridge at Curry Road. The milk dairy at Pune was also his project. He had earned a lot of money, but he had not been able to save any of it. Whatever he earned, he gave it to all away as if he were the direct descendants of the Saint Tukaram, who was famous for his generosity. There was a terrible outbreak of some epidemic fever that claimed many lives during the time when my father undertook the Pune dairy project. The epidemic spread far and wide, and there was no or food for people. Whole households were being wiped out. People wandered from place to place in search of food, leaving behind all that they had. When new reached that Pandarinath Mistri from their own village had undertaken a large contract in Pune. The entire Maharwada of Paltan set off to Pune. Many were burning with fever. Many had absolutely no food to eat, yet they walked all the way to Pune. My father had got a bungalow for himself, and there was no dearth of servants either. When he was all his people starving and sick, my father brought two huge pots, 2 bags of rice, and half a bag of tuar dal. His servants built two makeshift chulas in the large courtyard and began to cook pots of rice and dal. People's health began to improve gradually once they started getting food. Thus, death was defeated. The news spread like wildfire. Many more groups of people flocked to this site to work for food and camped around the bungalow. My father had obtained the contract only to save his people from hunger. Whenever he backed the contract and made some money, he tried the project people's lives. He was also greatly influenced by message of education that was being spread by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. He resolved to educate both of us, my brother and me, and came to Paltan to enroll us in school. There was a huge tamarind tree in front of our hut. People who came to the Chowdi often sat under his school shade. During the year 1938-39, the courtyard and the ground under the tree would overflow with people. In those days, Dr. Ambedkar was the most favorite topic of discussion among the Mahars. They would not tire of praising him. They would endlessly retreat Baba Sahib's qualities. The Chowdis started getting a newspaper and reported of Baba's public meeting, and speeches began to be read out to the public. There were constant discussions about the public meeting that had been planned and those the Baba would attend. That was no other talk beside this. People were mesmerized by Baba. They would constantly speak about him, his personality, and his qualities. Our young minds were absorbed. Baba's various names, Dr. Bhimrao, Ambedkar, Baba Sahib, became holy chants for us. Young activists, under the influence of Baba Sahib's ideas, started enrolling their children in the and schools and mass. My father enrolled me in school number 2. His friends enrolled their children in the school. We were about 10 girls in the elementary school. Sushila, Husa, Shanta, Bagat, Begum, Sau, Ulka, Gulba, Kali, Saku, Asha, and I. Quite a big group. After school, we all used to rush to the chowdi to listen to the discussion there. One newspaper or the other would invariably carry a report of Baba's speech in some public meeting. My father read out the report and people would listen attentively. None of us had seen Baba, but these words were like elixir to our ears. The revolutionary favor of this word set out blood crushing through the veins. We felt as if we should go and shake the orthodox by the scuff of their neck. By the time we reached the fourth standard, we had sort of become grown ups. We were 10, then transferred from the school number 2 to school number 5. The school was known as uh, Bahulichi Shala. Now, there were about 30 or 40 children from the Maharwada ready to go to Mudhoji High School. The first to go to high school was my uncle Narahari uh, Junglu Kakde, my brother uh, Babu Pandhari Nath Kakde, Digambar Chuglu Kakde, and around 40 other boys followed in his footsteps. But the boy had a problem. They did not have enough space for studying together. Then my brother and my uncle took all the boys and met Dr. Ambedkar of the royal family to discuss their problem. Dr. Dr. Badmakar was very sympathetic. He visited the school and was convinced that the problem faced by the boys were genuine. He handed over half of the backyard of the school number 2 for their use. There was a building uh, there with some rooms. My brothers named the building Harijan boarding. This turned all the boys into staunch supporters and soldiers of Baba. Students from the other village also started living in this boarding school. They started studying Baba's philosophy and his writings. Baba's thinking influenced them greatly, and all of them became his dedicated followers. Their unity gave them in identity and strength for the first time in their lives. Later, my brother joined politics. The constant discussion in the Chowdi had a deep impact on young minds. Young were simply electric. My father could not think of anything else except Baba. He gave up his work and we often had to go hungry. Yet he forbade my eye to go out and work. My brother was also mesmerized by Baba. This ended in huge fight between my father and I. My eye dosed my father up as well. She would nag him constantly, then my father would lose his temper. Bolting the door from inside, he used to give I a terrible thrashing. This was almost a daily routine. We began to live in perpetual state of hunger. My uncle Bapu Rao Mahadev Kakdi had got a job in the irrigation department and was transferred to Shindewadi, close to Faltan. He was very proud of my brother and me because we were going to school. Since he was in the change of water, big landowners would keep their produce at this place. Our family of 4 was virtually starving. My paternal Aji, Thakubai, and Ajja Madhu naturally felt very sorry for us. Both of them loaded a horse with various necessities and brought them to our house Paltan. They brought so much with them that we did not have place to scroll all of it. Our small hut overflowed with the food and other things. Ajja and Ajji stayed with us for a couple of days and then left. Though the house was filled with what Ajja and I had brought, we did not have any money. So my father sold off everything and spent the money. After a week or so, another load arrived. Gradually, my father gave up work altogether. Day and night, he would be found sitting in the chowdi talking about Baba. Girls too felt thrilled that our caste consciousness, which had been dormant so far, are now awakened. Our school was predominantly high caste. A majority of the girls in our class belonged to the higher caste. For the first time in their lives, they had girls like us who could pollute them, studying with them. They treated us like lepers and as if our bodies dipped with the dirty blood as if it ooze out of our rotten flesh. If they had to pass by us, they would cover their nose, mutter chi chi, and run as if their lives were in moral danger. The teacher had allotted us place in corner near the door for where we could not move till school was over for the day. Then blackboard would be in another corner. We could neither see what teacher was writing on the board nor could we raise our doubt in the classroom. If we went to drink at the school tap, the other girls would raise hell. But we never listened to them. We were greatly emboldened by Baba's brave spirit. We 7 or 8 friends would move together at one as one person. The higher caste girl would hurl taunt and abuse at us. These Mahar girls put on such air. They have each touched the taps. Now, where would we drink water from? Stupid things. Another one would come and with up. I have to bathe again after I go home from school. My mother had come to know the Mahar girls in our school and a class, and she doesn't allow me to enter the house unless I have a bath. We have to go to the Ram temple. What to do now? We do drink water from. They would hurl stones at us and throw dust into our eyes. Then we would get angry and attack them. Taking up our long skirts, we would just barge into their groups like battering rams and scatter them. They would run away. Those left behind would be prey in our hands. We would attack them furiously, pull their long plates, push them to the ground, pinch their cheeks and hands, and torture them as much as we could. But we would get back all of this and more once we entered the classroom. Then the teacher would hurl insult at us, to hit us with the long ruler and make us bend down and hold our toes till school was over. We would bend down, touch our toes, and smile at each other. But when school was over for the day, it would be our turn again. When the bell rang, the hearts of these higher caste girls would turn to water. Some of them escaped our breath by quickly running away, but we managed to catch quite a few of these girls. We 7 or 8 girls from the different grades would get together in a group and start roughing up any girl whom we happened to catch. The higher caste girls also got together to surround us. They would hurl insult at us. The Ambedkar had educated himself, that's why these dirty Mahar are showing off. That filthy Mahar Ambedkar eats dead animals, but look at the airs he gives himself. In retaliation, we said, "You shaven widows, how dare you talk our Ambedkar's name? You have your own barley, that stupid Gandhi. He had neither a shirt on his body nor teeth in his mouth. Then, toothless old beggar hasn't any teeth, ha ha ha." Then we would sing a song from our Jalsa, where Gandhi's spinning wheel gone, Bhima has shaved Gandhi's head off. Our quarrels were nothing more than the hurling of insult at the two leaders. Finally, we would chase those girls away and walk back home, laughing and repeating each other's the thing that we had said to them. These skirmishes were not short lived. These fights continued till we finally left the school. In the morning, the higher caste girls hurled all kinds of insult and abuse at us in front of the teacher. It is really too much that finally that filthy Mahar educated himself. Ambedkar is so vain. Who does he think he is? They would go on and on like this. Then we would respond, "Our Ambedkar looked like a Sahib. You know why your Gandhi is toothless? Because our Ambedkar kicked him in his teeth. Ha ha ha. That's why your Gandhi had no teeth. And do you know my Gandhi has no hair because our Ambedkar shaved it off." That's the kind of man our Ambedkar is. They could not count us with anything. They would tell one among them, "Hey, Atwale, come on, don't you talk to those filthy Mahar. They say such obscene things. They call our Gandhi Gandhi. Come on, don't even talk to them. If our Gandhi just uttered a curse, then Ambedkar will burn the ashes in second. How could we tolerate this? Bah, we would say, don't take our Ambedkar to an oldies like your Gandhi. He will snatch your Gandhi's cane and beat him to a pulp with it." They would shout at us in chorus, "Filthy Mahar," and we would intone in unison, "Oh Bhimas, oh Brahmin caste has no shame. Women square before the barber off for a shave." We did not do exercise from our textbook, but this ritual was our daily routine, our road to the school. In Mangalwar Pet, we would come across a Gujar woman going to the temple. The moment they lay eyes on us, they would make a detour to avoid us. At least one of us would then run towards them, touch them from behind, and come back running. Touching them would make us feel as if we were in the seventh heaven. My brother had taught us yet another reformist trick. Inspired by Ambedkar, he had started composing songs in Paltan. Each square would celebrate Ganesh Utsav by having their own idol of Ganesh in their own square. The boys in the Horizon boarding also started celebrating the festival. They took 60 long sticks, fitted bells at one end of these sticks, and took out at possession singing fiery songs of revolt, rough the town at night. They would finally arrive at the Chowdi around 10 or 11 in the night. Then the entire Maharwada would gather at the Chowdi, drawn by their bells and songs. People listened to songs with their great pride. Eventually, everyone would join in the singing. The boys sang these songs in such a spirit, fierce of the vigor, that our blood would be in fire. The singing the singing continued throughout the night with the people lavishing praises on the boys. Lemon and Concord were smashed to the ward of evil spirit. The Harijans boarding in Melas was so good that the entire town would listen to the songs and praise of performance. Thus, the new wind of Ambedkar's thought started to blow. The end of the long night was in sight. In the Chowdi, Ambedkar's ideas were constantly discussed, and these discussions generated more ideas. One such idea was to celebrate Baba Sahib's anniversary on 14th April. Everyone have heartily. Thus, the new wind of Ambedkar's thought started to blow. The end of the long night was in sight. In the Chowdi, Ambedkar's ideas were constantly discussed, and these discussions generated more ideas. One such idea was to celebrate Baba Sahib's birth anniversary on 14th April. Everyone heartily welcomed this and supported the idea. People started collecting subscription to gather a fund. Activists like Nana member, Keshav member, Kala Dadu, Lakshman Dalal, Dari Dajiram, Srirang Appa, Ramchandra Shankar, Harum and other worked hard. Since this was the first time Baba's anniversary was being celebrated, the entire Maharwada joined the planning. New clothes were brought for the occasion by each family for the women and children. Padwa, the New Year festival of the Hindu, fell a couple of weeks before 14th April. People decided not to celebrate this festival of a New Year. This day will be 14th April. We will raise our gudi on this day, hang banners, wear new clothes, cook sweet chapati in each house. Since it was the first celebration, leader decided that all the young men of Maharwada would wear the uniform of scout. So they all got dressed in khaki shorts and half-sleeve khaki shirts, wore a whistle around their neck and put on what canvas shoes and socks. All of them had their own haircut short, and some had even gone to extent of buying English hats. 4 days before the event, women got busy. They polished their house and cow dung, washed all the dirty clothes and sheets clean, swept their courtyard. Invitations were spent to the people in 84 village to arrive at Paltan a couple of days before the main event and camp at their relatives' place. In those days, people had to walk all the way. Every house overflowed with guests, as if it were Jatra. The guests were impressed with all the preparations and were all praised for the young activist of Falter. Finally, a day arrived. It was the dawn of 14th April. People had not slept a wink the previous night. They had worked throughout the night erecting the pandal, helping with other preparations. The activists bathed at 3 in the morning and thereafter raised goodies on all rooftops. Women bathed their children, arranged for their guest bath, and began to make sweet chapati. The children gathered at the pandal with their combed hair and new clothes. Various groups had been invited from the adjoining village to play musical instruments like halgi, lesim, and khumki. The activist has decorated a bullock cart and placed Baba's photograph in front of the cart. Thus the preparations for the procession were in place. A band, the Halgi, Lazim and Ghumki troops walked in front of the cart with the khaki clothes clad boys followed behind. The visitors followed them. The procession passed through the town and people watched it in stunned surprise. All the important people from the town had been invited for the meeting. Around 6 o'clock in the evening, the meeting began. The pandal overflowed with people. Kala Dadu summoned us, Hausa, Sushila, and me to sing a song. We were just kids. What song did we know? No one worried about that. They just called out, "Girls, come on, sing a song." We felt confused for a minute, then began, and my two friends joined me. What a shameless God! How am I fed up with him? The stink of Abir and Gulal friend had made me lose my appetite. The sounds of the tal and mridang make my head ache so. Why should I see this Vithoba? He is nothing but black stone. Somehow we managed to sing these four lines, and how badly we sang. Each of us sang in a different pitch. Our voice trembled. We gulped words in between, but we sang. Our listeners were thrilled, especially so when we sang the last line, called Vithoba a black stone. Kala Dadu became so excited that he started to jump up down. He picked up us, danced around, and showered praise on us. Kala Dadu was my Ajja's cousin. He must have been around 30 or 45 years of age. He looked like a film star Master Bhagwan, but his complexion was coal black. He had quite a humorous disposition. He was completely illiterate and he would have let down his life for Baba. They were all like children of the some mother. When somebody proposed something, all agreed it. Wise men were not a dime a dozen then, and they are today. Nobody would say, "Who is he? We should listen to him. Why should we do what he says?" No, won't it do? He's wrong. Purposes suggest something, and 10 people carried it with the fuss. They all worked with one voice and in one mind. That is why the entire community grew in strength. One body with one soul. Every program was carried out well, with everybody participated wholeheartedly. The whole world marveled at this union. Parents gave everything away to get their children educated. But now so-called wise men from every house act like dynamite to ruin this union. Even in the routine meeting, if one says something, another opposes tooth and nail. The third acting superior points our mistakes and criticizes everything that the others do. What can be done in such a situation? Meeting ends in chaos. Every person wants to brag about their own greatness and wisdom. People have started breaking the community for their own selfish ends. This had led to the disintegration of the community. Our strength has disrupted. There is no strong leadership among us anyone. A small community shook the whole world in 1940 under Baba's leadership. Today the community is fused but has become completely ineffective and feeble. However, it is not late even now. Time marched onwards and we cannot afford to slack our speed. We have snatched the right moment. We have to forge unity in the Buddha community. We have to join force to give life to the helpless, to fight the whole world as Baba's higher, to allow suffering soul to rest in peace. We may be like rivers, stream, canals, or even gutters, but all of us have to finally merge in one ocean. Our ocean is community. We have to make it stronger. I may be an illustrated woman, but I speak that truth which I have learned from Baba. Yesterday we were only in handful, yet we could shake very foundations of the system. Today we number thousand, and yet we are dispersed. Our men then hermaphrodite. That is what we have been reduced to. The gigantic strength of one man yesterday and the stupid helplessness of 10 timid men today. But remember, we are the higher of unique man who has taken the whole world. Discard your cowardice and unite in the spirit of brotherhood that Baba desired. The references appear to be the huge number of Mar people who converted to Buddhism. They are scattered and need to be organized. This appear to be the import. The prison we broke may be Kambley, chapter 11. I made a firm resolve at young age to life according to the path sketched by Baba Saheb Ambedkar, the light of my life. His principles have exercised a strong influence on me. However, there were other things that influenced me as well. Cinema, for instance, a man called Gabu Kothari set up 4 cinema hall in Paltan. The first film he screened was Sant Tukaram, based on the life of famous Marathi saint Tukaram. A ticket cost 1 anna. The hall was nothing but an enclosure with bamboo walls. People had to squat down the since there were no chairs. As nobody had even seen a film before, they were all extremely eager to see. The students saying at the boarding school also went to see. My brother took me along. I was completely mesmerized by what I saw. Tukaram's integrity, the threat posed to the virtuous by malicious people, and finally, the victory of truth. All of this greatly impressed me and left me a deep imprint on my mind. I think this was another way formative influence on me. All and the illiterate people who watched the film were simply mesmerized. In the morning, people flocked to the chowdi, talking about the wonderful experience that evoked admiration, amazement, and awe. Oh my, what a fantastic thing the cinema is. Do you know? Picture walk and talk sing on the screen. And they are just pictures, mind you, on a board screen, on a cloth screen. But they are for real. The chulha burns, the jijabai pats bakri, and when Atyaka weeps, you can see tears streaming down her face. Just like it is reality fantastic. It's simply fantastic. The man who made the film is simply great. A 17th century Marathi saint Tukaram was born in Kunbi caste and belonged to the Varkari sect. He is also known for his radical critique of the oppressive Brahmanical tradition. They would not get tired of praising the film. Sant Tukaram was followed by another film, Sati Savitri. Now we were no longer children. We were young girls on the threshold of youth and marriageable age. When we saw Sati Savitri on screen, some of the strength and willpower lying dormant within us were awakened. There was now a new determination in our hearts. Even in Savitri left life a deep impact on my mind, such as Savitri pulling her husband's cart, braving the storm, stopping the sun from shining, and sheer grit with such challenged her destiny, and above all, her ability to face life's adversity. I want to be a strong woman as Savitri. Let people say that they want, and this movie once of the main character that changed my life. Through my eye used to teach me many things. I was basically my father's daughter. I must have had more of my father in me. My father's words were always like elixir to me. Even today, his words are treasured in the innermost depth of my heart. He always used to tell me, never accumulate wealth. How long will it last? It is the earth that gives us everything, and it is the earth that takes us all. There is nothing you can claim as your own. God has given us great gift, our mind. It is your duty to make this mind generous. Real wealth doesn't come from money lying in the coffers. Dignity is far more important than wealth. What was make you half self-respecting human being? Real self-respect doesn't come from wealth. You must work, but not for gathering wealth. Work for survival, for dignity. No animal craves for more than what it's indeed for its survival. And how much does one need for survival anyway? If one gets a bellyful, it's enough. My father believed very strongly that our children should not become lawyers because it felt that lawyers would do anything for money. His words echo in my heart to this day. When my eldest son possessed his matriculation examination, all of us sat together to discuss the field which he should choose to make his career. My husband immediately said he wanted our son to be a lawyer. I was shocked. In front of my son, I reminded him what my father had always felt. The lawyer, police officers, and commissioner agents, and how we have decided not to make our children lawyers. When we began to discuss our other option, my son suddenly said that he wanted to go to agriculture college. Both my husband and I agreed immediately, and we enrolled him in the agriculture college. I have never worshipped Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar with the sandalwood paste, flowers, and dhoop stick. I have never made a public display of my revenge for him. I worshipped instead the principle he stood for. I have had to face several adversities in my life, and I fought for those bravely with the weapons of Shil and Sattva. I have remained happily in my poverty because I managed to keep my family on the true path. Everybody in my family followed the path of righteousness. My household is untouched by the corrupt ways of the world. This gives me a sense of fulfillment. It is wrong way to say that young minds are shaped well if only if their environment is good. Many people believe that culture can be imbibed only from education. Rich and intelligent people, I can confidently tell you from my experience that it is not true. My house is located in an environment where all kinds of awful things happen all the time, but that doesn't affect us at all. It is not necessary to live in the distinguished environment for one can be cultured and civilized. These are qualities you must have in your blood. Why did Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar converted to Buddhism? Buddhism means good character. The person who preach Buddhism has to be morally upright and lead the virtuous and uncorrupt life. Advice from a pure tongue such as Dalit Saint Chokha Mela. Chokha Mela was a 14th century saint poet from Mahar caste, a devotee of the god Vitthal and Pandarpur. He gave great influence by Namdev, the Varkari poet from the Tailor caste. He has composed many abhangas as he may be described as the first Dalit poet. Why did Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar converted to Buddhism? Buddhism means good character. The person who preaches Buddhism has to be morally upright and lead to virtuous and uncorrupted life. Advice from a pure tongue such as Dalit Saint Chokhamela will transfer millions followers of the Bhima into pure being. The aim is to serve Mother's India well. That is why Dr. Ambedkar introduced Buddhist philosophy as the path of the truth and righteousness. Before him, billions of our people had taken their heads against the stone step of temple, trying to reach their voices to God who would not hear them. Generations after generations gave birth to children, only to see them turn to dust. The Creator gave us a human form and sent us down to earth and abandoned us. He was least bothered about what was happening to us. He turned a blind eye in going out on our world. It was our Bhima who finally breathed life into lifeless status. That is the people of community. It was he who lighted a lamp in each heart and brought light to dark lives. He is far greater to us than maker of the universe. Was there anything that he did not do so? First he gave us life, then he made us human beings. The first need of human being is education. He made it impossible for us to receive education. He even spent his own money for that. He encouraged us to be graduates. He helped us obtain prestigious jobs. He made our households rich, empowered us to obtain wealth and power. He demonstrated to the whole world that we had the ability to reach the highest position, that we could even be minister. He strived hard and brought comfort to our doorstep. Obviously, since he made all is possible, he is our God. Nay, he is even better. He is the God of gods, for it is because of him that the age-old surfing of millions of the people could be wiped out within 50 years. He is certainly superior to God. He achieved what even God has not been able to do. But look at yourself. Though Baba did so much for all of you, you call yourself intelligent, have just discarded his thought. Your children have not even the foggiest idea of Dr. Ambedkar was and who Buddha was. You are teaching your children to believe in God. There is an explosion of ritual fast in your family on days of Sans Shankasti Chaturthi. Saturday, Thursday, you observe fast so many days. Bhima made you and you rub your nose before the very God that he taught us to discard. Ganesh, Lakshmi, how many gods and goddesses do you introduce your children to? That is precise what your ancestors did too. They waste their lives rubbing their nose on those stone steps outside the temple, which God never took mercy upon them. And yet once you have chosen to become slave of the same God, you are inculcating the same culture in your culture. You have simply wiped off Baba's name. All the educated among us have forgotten Baba because they are basking in the false glory of their so-called greatness. You are the children of our blood, but you have forgotten the blood relationship. We had never imagined that our children would be so crass and undeserving. We have never thought there would be so much regression. Our heart bleed, words choke. Finally, it is parasites that we have given birth to. From village lanes to the high thrones of Delhi, everybody is dying to be leader. There is cutthroat competition among the climbers, each plotting against other. The real world is the world of the glorious sacrifice of Bhima. We own our happy lives to this sacrifice. That king among men gave the life for the oppressed like us. The real leader is known by his intense desire and power to transfer everyone into his own image. He wants every life to be bright, every home full of light. He wants that light to seep into every nook and corner of the society. He wants the entire edifice of the society to be built on the foundations of the Shil, Sattva, and Niti for the glory of our country. Mother India, among all the countries, is the Mother India who gave birth to these principles. We are fortunate to be born there as the children. Life does not mean wealth and comfort, it is a state of pure being. Baba could easily have earned mountains of wealth had to so desire, but he did not. Why? Because wealth would have destroyed all sense of duty. Man is born with a duty assigned to him to work for others. This is Baba's principle. He gave his entire life in the service of this poor, helpless Dalit brethren. He lived for the Dalit, and each droplet of his blood was meant for their well being. He poured life into every fiber of our being. His life was like a piece of sandalwood. The wood loses itself as it is ground into paste, but was a fragrance linger. Likewise, Baba's moral body died, but his work lives on and will remain forever. His spirit too will last forever. His name will continue to live along as the sun and moon are in sky. His words are eternal and have conquered death. The one lesson that we must learn from Baba's life is that we must serve others. Baba was like the sun. We can at least try to be like the fireflies. We too can shine and give some light to others. Can we not? We may not be able to work for 24 hours a day, but little time out of our busy schedule is not too much to accept. Is it? The friends, you must be busy for 6 days a week with your own work. What about giving half a day each work for the poor? Believe me, you will achieve a lot. If educated people show a little sympathy for the weak, it will be great service to the society. Those weaklings will receive a new breath of life. They will be able to take at least few faltering steps ahead. All they need is a little support. What we need, therefore, is a group of intellectuals dedicated to the task of pulling out these helpless people from the mire of poverty. It is our duty to ignite a new spark in the community that is bereft of all life. Today, you live in bungalows. You must have wives who are educated. Your children are graduated. You occupy high position in society. You must going to continue the tradition of fighting for human values and rights of the downtrodden. Your life is for the same quality a life leads in heaven. Did our people even enjoy such a life? You must remember that it was one man who achieved the impossible task of transforming beasts into human beings. That glorious ray filled millions of lives with brightness. That pure stream managed to wash away the sins of all people. He was the only man who made it possible for millions to taste the drop of elixir. There were so many intellectuals today, millions of them crawling around. Why is that none of them are able to provide leadership, even a small section? Don't you understand? The ignorant people like us can see through your games. Isn't it shame that millions of people are unable to achieve what was persons could achieve? How did millions of illiterate people follow one man? He was a man who believed in himself. He had courage and fortitude. He was neither a defeated nor an escapist. His words had the sharp edge of Vajra. Nobody could seal his lips with bribe. He had the fire coursing through his veins. He had iron in his soul. He never changed his position. Nor did he even compromise his principles for selfish gain. Money, prosperity, fame, nothing could temper him. He understood the time. Whims and fancies did not sway him. His heart was soft and tender, full of love for the downtrodden. He never sacrificed helpless people for his own a selfish motive. His character was spotlessly clean, without any blemish. But what was about that? Our dark settlement do not have even an iota of clean space. There is a world of different people between him and us. Whatever one goes, one sees needless interference, bribery, selfish motives, self grandishment, relentless and shameless thirst for the wealth and fame. What is the true value of the bungalows or the cat? Are they more significant than human beings? Are material things like gold, diamonds, and gems are more important than living beings? Everybody seems to be preoccupied with one's own family, one's own wealth. Nobody seems to have any concern for the others. Shall I tell you how these self-centered, selfish people think? They say, where the need to think about the words. What do we have to gain? The thinking about the poor. What do we have to do with the beggars out there? We are people far superior to them. Why should we have concern for them? That would be nothing but the degradation for us. Why should we demean ourselves? These people are slum dwellers. They speak a dirty language and even eat leftovers. There is a world of difference between their culture and ours. We live in beautiful mansion, high-rise buildings. We move around in cars, paints our faces, and our children call us Papa and Mummy. We have relationship with the high caste and high class. We have assimilated ourselves into their high culture. We worship the idols of Ram and Sita, pray for Murari and Ganpati, apply a black marker between eyebrow like the high caste, and make our children recite evening prayers like Shubham Karoti. We teach our children how to sing praises of Hindu gods and goddesses and how to worship them. In the short, we claim that we have reached the pinnacle of culture. But you, parasite of the high caste, you have received the Buddha religion from Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar that teaches one. Shubham Karotis is a Sanskrit shloka sung in Brahmin households as a part of the every evening prayer. Shubham Karoti Kalyanam Arogyam Arogyam Dhana Sampada. Shubham Karoti Kalyanam Arogyam Dhana Sampada Shatru Bodhi Vinasha Deepajoti Namostute. It means, oh God, please bless us with the health and wealth. We light lamp and pray to those, and it may destroy all evil intelligence of our enemies. To exercise one's sides to humanity, generations after generations of our ancestors vested themselves in the service of the high caste, who are like cunning thieves, but still some of us will not give up. Shouldn't we be ashamed of ourselves? Do you think our struggle was worthless? Baba gave Baba gave away his whole life for us. Is even that worthless? Some of us have even chosen to discard our sight and be deliberately blind. I ask you, do you want to get into the habit of groping in the dark with a stick just like your ancestors? You narrate stories of gods as if it is true history. The high caste strive very hard to keep alive the stories from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata in the mind of their young generation. They impress the young minds of the children with stories from the Puranas. But look at yourself, you have forgotten real history. It is hardly 30 years since Baba passed away, but you have already wiped your memories clean of his teaching. Tell me, do you children know anything about Baba Ambedkar? Do they know the teaching of Buddha? Do you have guts to sing in praise of your religion, your Baba? No, you are simply intoxicated with the power of your wealth. Today, generation is not ignorant like us. We are too scattered to give up old customs. There was tremendous pressure upon us. Suddenly, the time changed. We had never even imagined that the country would progress so much and did listen to the footsteps of time. We never imagined that our children would scale such highest of the success. We are not human beings then. We were alive only because our eyes moved in their sockets, and otherwise we were merely skeleton without any life in us. But when Baba came, a new spark enlivened us. The flame of beams started burning in our hearts. We began to walk and talk. We began conscious that we are two human beings. Our eyes began to see and see and our ears to listen. Blood started coursing through our veins. We get ready to fight Bhima soldiers. The struggle willed us three jewels: humanity, education, and the religion of Buddha. By giving us this religion, Baba led us back into the leap of our old real mother from the whom we had been estranged for long. What more could a father give his children? What more do you want? Whatever wealth he left us, We have cherished this treasure. We have to use it well. Today, many of our daughters and daughter-in-laws are graduates. They are 100 times more superior or to ignorant women like us. Even if their husbands forget the father in the glory of their own so-called greatness, it is their duty to primed their husband. They should tell them, remember what you are today is solely because of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. The life of luxury has been impossible for you because of him, but for him you would have had to spend your life in some hut with earthen pots. You would have been begging around for food, biting carcasses to fight the pangs of hunger, and what would have been the state of our children dressed in rags? They would be lying in some dark corner of the house, crying with hunger. They would have served the high caste and day and night, being flogged for small mistakes. They would have to survive on flogging than on food. The monopoly of our leftovers from high caste houses would be yours. It was our Bhima who rescued you from such a terrible fate. He showed us this golden day. You must fold your hands to this great man, the self sacrificing soul. They introduced him to our children. He had made us what we are now. He has made us his new life for us. It is to him that we owe our present prosperity. It is duty of educated women to impress this upon their young children. They should portray this poem, teach them to their children. Through all their programs, we must portray the lives of the Beam and Buddha. We must see that it is our children imbibe the principle of the Buddhist religion. Then alone shall we be able to call ourselves the children of Bhima. Characters, truth, and morality are the essence of our constitution. Character is the pillar of this constitution, truth is its roof, and morality is foundation. This is home of humanity. This is our house decorated with these three jewels. Baba wanted to be with the residence for the entire human, and if the whole of the human race treats on the path of these principles, only the sky would be the limit of Mother India. Why do I have Bhima? What can I offer to you? Except for flowers, you gave voices to our suffering souls. Each flower that I offer is nothing but a burning grief. With tears flowing from our eyes, I wash your feet. The fire raging in my heart has ignited this flame. Through the flickering of these flames, all I see is Buddha and Bhima.